Welcome everyone to episode 118 of Just Joshing. In this episode, I will conclude my conversation with Valerie Lioudis. Man, I hope I say this right. Valerie was awesome though. If anything, she basically takes away your excuses in terms of doing or not doing, because with her kids, her books, and everything else she does, she somehow finds the time to do it all, which puts me and a lot of other people to shame, because that is a driven person, an individual, and Valerie, you're awesome for it. In other news, the Cloud Diver is officially in edit mode, which is cool. I'm learning a lot, because although I'm not going to say poetry is easy, it's a lot more forgiving. A novel has to have certain things in it, and I'm learning them. Some of them really quickly, some of them not so really quickly. So it's been good. My editor has been amazing on us and very on point so far. I'm looking forward to seeing my document with her corrections on it this week. I'm expecting a lot of red, but that's okay. There are definitely again, every time you write, you got a chance to get better, and I'm no different. So I am really, really eager for this. However, based on timing and everything else, I might be pushing the book's release back a couple months, just because I want to make sure it's just right. We'll talk more about that in a later episode. For now, though, let's conclude part 2 of my chat with Valerie.
So, yeah, I know exactly how you feel about it. It suddenly just starts barreling into all kinds of stuff. It does. This world is interesting. If you open yourself up to the opportunities and you join in with other authors and you say, what are you doing? What's going on? You can magically end up being part of all of these huge projects that you never would have seen any other way.
Yeah, no, it'd be kind of cool. Like I'm going to be pitching, like next week we're doing a writers conference, and I've never done panels or presentations before. Not that I'm going to let that stop me. I'm going to go. I already have a crazy plan for one of them. And I'm trying to think about how to make the other one kind of fun too, because I don't take myself too seriously, and it's not the way I do things. So I'm like, I might as well just, how can I make this fun? And because again, for me personally, I just realized that people in general want to play on some level. They just want to have fun. So just if I can satisfy that itch, we might be friends, that kind of thing, right? So.
True.
You laugh. I'll tell you a true story. So my very first signing, I did way back when I did my very first book years and years ago. It was I didn't do a good job advertising it because I was a flake. I'll be the first. I can openly admit that. And I ended up. The store was in a bad location. You couldn't see the store in any way, shape, or form. So I was like, well, how do I get people to come to the store? And they have no idea I exist. So what I did was I put arrows from the sidewalk all the way to the store. People followed it. I'm not kidding. Right? The biggest lesson I learned from that, and this is something I've applied to myself in terms of what I do, if people can if it feels interactive in a way that is fun, people will engage you. Doesn't mean necessarily they're going to buy from you, but they will engage you. And again, ultimately going back to you're selling yourself ultimately when you do these kind of things. You might not get that sale today, but you know what? You keep doing that stuff, you're going to get that sale eventually. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's why we've got the reanimated fan group too, and I have a very strict no buy my books link rule, which some of the authors were confused by in the beginning, because it becomes, well, how do you sell your book then? And the point of the group is not for you to do like so many of those Facebooks do, where it's buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. It's for you to interact with the people that enjoy what you're writing about. Because when they know you and they get to talk to you about what you do or your life, they feel connected to you. And when they feel connected to you, they may want to buy your book. So I talked to them this week in the authors group. I said, if you want to promote, why don't you think of something that links to your book? Like I put a post up the other day that one of my characters, I would have loved to have him cast as Edward Norton if you ever made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom, it wasn't just, well, here's what I think. It was, and if we did a movie and it was a zombie apocalypse, who would be you? So that the people that are in there that are not authors especially can feel like they're interacting too, and they can put a picture of whatever actor or actress or that they think could play them, and it got a big response from people, but it also got people talking. And then I noticed in the comments, as people started to talk about their books and their characters, people were interacting and saying, I'd love to read a book like that.
Exactly. Well, no, that's real marketing. That's what it works today, because I don't want to get bombarded with your sales pitch. I mean, I have a 30-second sales pitch for my books. I even call it my lame 30-second pitch. I have it because sometimes you need it, but
Right.
I don't want to talk about it. I want to be the guy that happens to sell a book, and I know that seems counterintuitive for what we do, but I'd rather be that, because if I scream salesman, you're gonna run away screaming. Like that's just the way it is. Like it's like, I already got enough people trying to take my money. I don't need you to do that too. I got plenty of those people, right?
Exactly, and entertain me.
Yeah.
Don't make me feel like even commercials on TV now have an entertainment value. They want you to either laugh or cry or whatever it may be.
Well, they want to make an impression.
Or whatever it is. There's not just somebody screaming in your face, buy my product.
The only problem with the commercials today is that they don't. So one of my all-time favorite commercials is there's a guy, he's bungee jumping, right? He gets to the bottom, he's like, ah! And at the bottom there's a guy with underwear on the bottom. So, oh, thanks, I need that. Ah! It's an underwear commercial, right? It makes sense. It's entertaining, it's engaging, and it makes sense. It's something you could see yourself doing. Most commercials today, they go for the impression, which, again, an impression's good, don't get me wrong, but I sometimes leave a commercial with no clue what you're selling, like, at all. Like, so I'm interested, but I don't know what you're actually doing.
Oh, that's my favorite commercial of all time, and I have still to this day, I don't know what they were selling. So if anybody can ever find it and send it to me so I can know what it was about, I would love it.
Yeah.
So it was during the Super Bowl, I think, a bunch of years ago. There was a guy in a catcher's mask, and he puts his glove out, and they back a horse up to him, and then the horse kicks him in the face. And it was one of the funniest things that I really, like, slapstick, I cannot buy. I absolutely find hysterical. So I was laughing so hard. Whatever it was that they were selling to me, I missed it because tears were rolling down.
Okay.
It was one of those you had no idea it was coming moment. But yeah, I have no idea what they sold. And I remember it must have been a decade ago.
Oh, geez. So it definitely, it accomplished, but here's the thing, right? You'd have bought whatever they were selling if you knew what they were selling. So that's the point, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. I think commercials today lose that. They I mean, grant you, good on impression. I don't know what you're selling, so I don't know, right? So. Now, I always tend to shrug that off because it's like I need a little bit of that logical, like, just from a story, just me as a storyteller. I can have my slapstick. What? If it's a joke for the sake of a joke, cool. I like that. But if you're trying to sell me something, I want to know what I'm being sold. Because if you're engaging me and I want to buy and I don't have a fucking clue what the hell you're telling me, I'm gonna be like.
It must have had something to do with baseball or baseball equipment.
But the thing is, you don't know, right? That's the worst part, is you don't actually know. They could be selling the horse for all you know. I mean, right? Could be, right? That's the thing, right? That's what's lost. I mean, I get it on one hand too, because we are bombarded with so much shit today. I look on my Facebook page right now. I look to the sides. I'm like, I see advertisements. Based on my clicks. I'm not a fan. It's kind of frightening, actually, but that's the world we live in, and it's just it. Like I don't like we live in a beast today that tries to get us to buy, consume, blah 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 blah. So I when I look at it, right? I try to what's the term? I try to go, well, you know, I try to go. The voice in my head goes, Big Brother is always watching you. It's like, yes, it is. there are algorithms that make me think, oh, you're trying to get me to buy, you're trying to get me to look into stuff, and because just even stuff I research sometimes, I'm like, I'm just researching this because I'm a writer. Why are you trying to?
You know what? You just explained one of the questions that I had from my experience on my internet last night. I was on Facebook and it suggested some groups to me, and I had no idea why they ended up there, and that would explain it.
Yeah. No,
that makes so much more sense because I'm like, that doesn't relate to me or anything that
yeah,
I
but
do.
but again, that's a frightening thing. But we get exposed to this stuff all the time. It's normal today. I'm not sure it's right. I actually.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's creepy, and it's really creepy when they do it to kids. There's a class action lawsuit against Disney right now because of something very similar in one of their apps that they were tracking kids. And there's a law in the United States that you can't do that. And the thing that I found weird about it was in the comments on the article that I read.
Yep.
Some of the people were like, "Oh my God, they can't track kids," and they were very upset about it, which I would think is a normal reaction to that. And other people just went, "Well, that's the world we live in," and I went, "No.
Well, but
you don't have to accept everything."
No, but a lot of people do. That's kind of where, I mean, this is where we've come to is, let's get the dark and scary stuff. Like America today. I mean, if you really sit there and think about it, if you go by the definition that fascism is the merger of corporate and government, then the United States is an open fascism, and it didn't get there, like quickly or slowly, or it just got there literally one step at a time because people just said, well, that's just the way the world's gone. I mean, you really get right down to it. That's the reason, right? So I tend to, you know, I'm not, by the way, saying he's Hitler. I'm not going to say that at all. I'm just saying that this is, I mean, if you look at where America has evolved into, it's I don't know what how you would define the country today, because it's not, I wouldn't call it a free country anymore. I wouldn't call it necessarily an evil country, but again, it's in a very interesting, like, gray area. And
well, I think the great part about America,
yeah,
and that I think the part that especially our younger voters don't realize, because everything is so instant gratification, is that America is ever evolving, and it's every 4 years.
Well, yeah.
Really, you have, as a person in this country, the ability to say, let's course correct a lot faster than most other countries can. And we'll be, I think we're in a much better place than most people think we are. And I think part of that's just in general. I think people as a whole, not just America, I think society and everything else, I think that we went from, at least when I was a kid, you had to learn things by looking them up or going to find the information. And now you're hit with the information, and you're hit with the information that people want you to see, depending what they think you want to hear to get you to behave the way they want you to behave.
Absolutely.
So you get panicked, because the best way to move you is to get you panicked, and that's both sides.
Oh, no, absolutely, no.
That's why I'm neither side. I am a libertarian, and libertarians are great in my mind because we're not one of the two.
Well, no, I look at, see, I call myself a political atheist is what I call myself, because because honestly, I see both parties as two faces of the same whole. It doesn't really matter which it doesn't matter which way you vote. You're essentially voting for the same people. And a lot of people don't look at it like that. I do. I look at the fact that who backs them, who sponsors these people, and if it's the same people sponsoring both sides, then it doesn't really matter who you vote for. It doesn't really matter who you vote for. So, because ultimately, no matter which way you vote, right, the face will be different, but the policies will be the same, and how they act. Right. So if that's the case, what you're really only voting for with either party is how these policies come into being, not necessarily the policies themselves. And I'm not going.
Fear notes they can hit in you.
Exactly. No, absolutely no.
And that's why writing in the genre that I do, because even though not every book is zombie, most of my books are stories happen in an apocalyptic. It's feeding that part of me that I guess doesn't respond to the the news that I get hit with every day, I don't feel the extremes, highs and lows that I see some of my friends and family go through.
What?
Because I don't think that each everyday individual decision is doing what I don't think they believe that every individual decision is pushing us off the cliff. But I think that they're responding like they feel like every individual decision pushes them off the cliff. Because some of my friends are still in a panic every day.
Well, yeah,
this happened.
It's by design. Like okay, so I stopped watching the news. I get my news like I research news. I use investigative journalism. I know it's a very strange concept in these days, this day and age, but it's the only way to get the news. And even then, I'm like, what's the term? Even then, I know there's not. You can no longer guarantee that what you are being given. This has been true since the early 80s. Once upon a time, Google used to have a better search engine than they do today, and you could actually compare newspaper articles written from like 1981 to 1982. The whole slant of how media perceived news changed in the early 80s, and we've grown up in this culture that basically has been designed to do two things: to divide people into as many different subcultures and classes as possible, whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're white or black. Like that's the American media today. Is they have a certain projection of how they present the news today that they didn't 30 years ago. Or 40 years ago now, almost, right? 40 years ago it was very, very different. Now, and when that changed, the whole perception of how news is fed to the public has changed as well. And now, what derailed that a little bit was the internet initially, because the internet made us, we can all communicate all over the world and talk about all the same things. But now what the internet's done now is, if I'm not careful, I can be completely caught in my own bubble, whatever that bubble is, because the internet now tries to insulate you with things that they think will appeal to you. So we live in a world today now where if you don't get sucked in by the television thing, you can just get sucked into your own bubble. Where the fear comes there is when you get exposed to things outside your bubble, because they're different and they're strange and they're alien and they're ideas that don't fit whatever ideology you have built for yourself. So that's what's happening.
It's a very scary place to hear something that you're not used to hearing. You're so used to everyone being around you saying, yes, we're all green.
Yeah.
Green is the only color that matters, and I love green, and green is so perfect. And somebody comes along and goes, yeah, but I like purple. And everybody goes, oh my God, get him.
No, exactly. No, exactly. This is like, people don't understand today exactly how they're being manipulated that way. And it's when you understand it, when you truly understand it, it doesn't hit you with the same level of fear. The other thing, and it just doesn't, because now you're like,
most people know. Like I said, there was a thread where people said, no, it's fine to track kids. Some people know and don't care.
Yeah.
And that to me is so sad.
Yes.
Because I wish I could change how we are, because I think we wouldn't hate each other as much as we seem to right now if we weren't all stuck in our little bubbles. Because it's funny, when you see people stuck in their bubbles, they're willing to scream such hateful things anonymously to each other.
Yes.
But if you meet each other across the room, there was a commercial that had that, where they took people with completely different political and social and everything and sat them across each other for a beer. But they didn't tell them they had opposite beliefs. They just sat them down in a room and say hi to each other, and they gave them like cue cards of different conversation starters, and they got along great. And then at the end they went, oh, and by the way, guess what? And they told them, and they both were willing to look at each other. It was, well, I can agree to disagree. Because they knew each other a little bit first, and they were willing to step back from that crazy. That's, like I said, that's why I love writing in this genre, because you can play out all this stuff. Like, my brain can go to a world where we do sit down and have that beer together before it goes crazy. Okay, well, how would that look? Okay, no, instead we just screamed at each other on the internet for hours and hours and nobody accomplished anything. That goes all the way back to yours. Are you doing anything to be part of the solution? So how does that go? If we, instead of ever finding a solution, we just scream ourselves into a hole in the ground, or do half of the people do one thing and half other? I love examining how all of those different paths work
Absolutely. And that's the best part about fiction and life, because we understand ourselves that much better doing that, and that's important. So I'm going to ask a big final question before I conclude the interview, because I think we definitely have had a really cool conversation. But the thing is, you are fascinated, and I've noticed this in everything you've written about. You look at end of the world, you look at your mortality, you look at immortality to some degree. So do you have an overt fascination with death, or is this something like, is there another reason why you write about the things you write about?
Somebody asked me that recently, and it made me realize I must.
Yes.
Because I did not notice that it was common.
Yeah.
With everything that I look at. I think that the idea of death scares the shit out of me, as it does so many people. And I have my faith, and I fall back on that. But I'm not so infallible that my faith goes, okay, well, it's just going to be fine. So I guess I'm constantly questioning it. And
that's good.
For me, I really, more than anything, am fascinated with the idea of what comes after. And even though it scares me, it's sort of like the first guy that steps out on the moon. It's scary as all hell, but it's also, you can't stop yourself from going there.
Yeah. No, it's curiosity.
Yeah, it is. It's this huge curiosity.
Yes,
but I'm not. It's funny because if you met me and you looked at me and you looked at my life, I don't have that morbidness in my life. I don't wear black, and I don't surround myself
with
death or anything. But you would, if you went inside my brain, it's probably very.
I'm gonna let you know a little secret. The people that wear all black and have like skulls and crossbones everywhere, I have learned that they are secretly the sweetest people on the planet. They really are. I'm not kidding.
I'm just saying, you'd never look at me and go, God, she writes about.
Oh no! Let me finish the point. Some of the people that really think about the Dark Disturbance, they look perfectly normal. Like they're just. I'm just like, they don't have skulls and crossbones. They don't have this fascination with black. I have an author friend. She's really quirky. If you met her, right? You think you think pretty woman. Nice, very, 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 very nice, somewhat semi-sociable, a little awkward, but semi-sociable, and then you actually really get to know her, and it's like, holy crap! But she's so uniquely her that you can't help but admire that. And that's the thing, right? Appearances, especially in this world, are deceiving, and you cannot. I no longer, like, I lived in a Mormon community for 2 years. I ended up working for one of my heroes, and I ended up living in this Mormon community for about 2 years. And after I had lived there for 2 years, I came to the conclusion, I just threw the whole concept of normal out the window. I just said it doesn't exist. I believe in God. I don't 100% know that God exists. I can't 100% say yay. I mean, I am a big enough man to acknowledge that I do not have all the answers. But I definitely do know that 100% with absolute certainty that normal does not exist, right? It just does not. I don't worry about it anymore. So I have met all kinds of interesting people who do all kinds of interesting things. Some legal, some not so much. It doesn't really matter. I don't look at it that way anymore. I just look at it like, okay, can I have a beer with you at the end of the day? Cool. Because that's it. I'm not. Look. If you want me to, if you ask me to give you an opinion on something, I will give it to you. I'm not. I respect you enough to be honest with you, and I totally will. But I'm not going to condemn you for what you do either. It's not my purview, right? I kind of go my own way in life, and I certainly cannot fault anybody else for doing the same thing. You know what I mean? It's just like that's it, right?
I am in 100% agreement with that. That's why I find it funny that people hold such strong opinions about stuff that doesn't really affect them. It's one thing if it affects you. It's another thing if it doesn't. I don't have time for it. I got in trouble in college because I had a public speaking teacher who wanted us to do a controversial speech, and I told her I just can't. I don't get that excited or worked up about anything. I don't have that strong of an opinion on pretty much anything.
I have strong opinions on some things, but it's like I worry about the environment. I kind of wish people were. I kind of worry that when I see education cuts go to nothing, it really makes me worry about the generations coming up, and if they can critically think for themselves. That's important to me because I want my generations to come after me to be better than me. Because I would rather them be better than me because if they're better, they'll make the world a better place.
But I don't have the answers to that. And
but
that was the problem. She wanted you to take a stance to be able to tell people how to live their lives.
No, I don't have I don't have answers to that either. I mean, these are just things I worry about, right? And that's right. I have opinions about what could be done, but the truth of the matter is, I put my pants on one leg at a time, like most people. You know, I like things like food, and I want to be happy, and I want to be around people I love. And I don't know anybody that's that different. So, you know what? If you can do that and you're not hurting anybody, I don't really particularly care what you do. You could be worshiping Satan in your house. That's cool. Just worship him in your house. I'm not going to worry about the consequences, right? And that might seem like I'm wishing. No, I'm not wishing ill will on anybody. But the fact of the matter is, you're gonna do what you damn well please anyway. So why, why would I judge you for it? In fact, if it doesn't impact me, cool. Are you happy? Good. If you're not, well, maybe you should change. And I can go in details at that point if you want what you should do. But if not, you know, so that's it. It's like, man, I'm getting too old to worry about that shit. So.
That's true. Well, if you ask me my opinion on most things, my answer is meh.
Yes.
I think that comes with age. That's true. Because eventually you get to the point where you're like, I can't be bothered.
Well, again, there are things I truly am passionate about and believe in, and I really think people should have opinions. I'm glad when people have opinions, but on the same token, I'm not going to, it's one of those things. I'm cool disagreeing with you. I'm fine with it. Again, that's good. I have solutions, but I mean, I got things I'm doing, and I don't have a lot of time to fight you on political or nonsensical. I'll happily have a philosophical discussion where we go when we die. That'd be cool. I like that. They're fun. But I'm not gonna condemn somebody to hell because they happen to practice something that's a little outside of my purview. I'm too old. I'd rather concentrate on more important things like ice cream and Baileys. So that's more important to me than condemning somebody. And again, I try to treat everybody the same. And I try to I try to be the best person I know how to be. I don't always succeed, but I try. And that's it. And that's all I can expect from anybody else. And that's it, really. I don't know what else really to say about that.
I think that about sums it up.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't have opinions. It's that I don't have strong opinions about stuff that doesn't affect me. So, and I also am of the mindset that just because I have an opinion doesn't mean my opinion carries any more weight than any of the other billions of people that live on this planet. And I think that's where we've gone a little bit wrong, is that people put more value to some people's opinions as opposed to others. And I think if you're an expert at something, that totally makes sense. Like an expert at anything, their opinion means more than mine. But if we're all in the same amount of knowledge of something, well, we're all equal. I don't know if that's because I'm an American and I grew up learning that, one vote, one person kind of thing, or if it's just my personality or what it may be. But that's always been my belief, is that mine equals one, yours equals one. So we don't cancel each other out. We can disagree next to each other. And like you said, as long as your stuff isn't like bleeding into my world and my stuff isn't bleeding into your world and you're not hurting anybody or doing anything, I don't care what you do. I really don't. I don't have time for it. With as many kids as I just have enough time to get through one day to the next day.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, listening to what you do, I'm like, holy crap! I was like, 7 kids. Some days, it was like, man, It's like, how do you do anything some days? Is actually a bit of an act of God in of itself. But I mean, hey, kudos to you. I'm not.
I see the face of God in my productivity.
Yes, you do. You do. That's awesome. So, okay, so I think we have an interview. I think we do. I could be totally wrong, but I think we do. So, if people want to find you, how can they do so? Now, and also mention whatever your latest book is. Which one is recent? We've talked about a few of them in here, but for you, the official pitch.
Okay, well, if they're looking to find me, I'm on Facebook, and that would be author V. Lioudis. If you want to find me on the internet, I have a website, aftershockzombieseries.com. That's where I do all my interviews and stuff, and my bio and all my links are on there. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, same thing. It's author V. Lioudis or V. Lioudis. I don't know. Most likely Facebook. If you look up reanimated writers on any Google search, that'll bring you to me.
Okay.
You'll find me that way because I do so much with them. And then you can always just bother me if anybody finds my fan page and says hello, I will talk back. I talk to everybody. That's why I found it funny when you said people don't come on the podcast because they're intimidated. In my experience, people have a hard time shutting me up. So.
And that was Valerie Lioudis. Okay, I said it right now. Valerie Lioudis. Woohoo! I know what I am talking about. I think. But we'll see. Check out Reanimated Writers sometime. It's actually a really good site, especially if you're a horror writer. But you don't need to be necessarily horror to actually really get some stuff out of it. It's a really cool collective, and you should really check it out. Check out any of Val's books that we talked about on the show because they're also really, really good. And yeah, she's really cool. I had a fun talking, so thank you very much, Valerie, for being part of the show. And that is another episode of Just Joshing. So if you like this podcast, you can support it in a number of different ways. I have Podomac.com is where this is. You can subscribe to it here or on iTunes. That'd be great. Leave a review. That would be fantastic. But if not, that's fine as well. You can also check out my YouTube channel at Joshua Pentolaresco. There is now a lot more episodes up on the archive than there were previously. So David, take a look. Subscribe to the channel if you really want to help. You can buy my books, The Watcher and Storm Dancer from Mirror World Books. You can buy them at Amazon, mirrorworldbooks.com, or any place electronically where you can get books. Beyond all that, if you don't, all that stuff, stay inspired out there. Do what you feel called to do because we only got one life to live. Stay out of trouble. Don't get caught. Have an alibi or an accomplice to take the blame. I don't judge. I really don't. And I'll see you next time, okay? Have a good one.
Josh.